Hey everybody, it's your pal Andrew, and today we're going to look at the Avalanche Run delay reverb pedal from Earthquaker Devices. Let's get to it. So today we're going to hang out a little while and take a look at the Avalanche Run pedal from Earthquaker Devices. This is the version 2. I've had a version of the Avalanche Run on my pedal board for years. In fact, there's been very few moments that I haven't had an Avalanche Run on my pedal board. It's one of my favorite pedals of all time, if not the greatest pedal of all time. We'll see. It's a really, really beautiful delay reverb pedal combo. It's kind of like the big sister, big brother, mommy, daddy, what have you, of the EQD Dispatch Master, which is always so hard for me to say. I don't know why Dispatch Master is so hard for me to say. Anyways, this is like a full-blown version, slightly modulated delay reverb, really nice pedal. It's got a bunch of modes to it, so many things that this pedal can do. I'm not even gonna try to get close to what it can achieve. If you've messed with it before, maybe you already have this pedal, you're bored, you're sitting on the toilet, you're watching this video just to kind of nerd out with me, thank you. Maybe you've heard of it before, but you're curious, you're thinking about buying it. I definitely recommend that you do, at least check it out. But this is just a really full-featured sonic enhancer if you're into experimental stuff, looping things and making cool sounds, shoegaze, dream pop, any of that stuff where lush, pretty guitar sounds are needed. And you can even get some really gnarly, ugly sounds out of this if you wanted to. No problem there. But let's take a look at some of the modes. So right off the bat, I'm gonna mess around with how things are set here. This is just kind of how I randomly put things together when I started the video. But up top, so let me start from here. It's a delay and reverb pedal. The combo of the two together is what makes this thing rad, okay? And then you've got multiple modes. We'll talk about that in a second. There's a tap tempo ratio thing that you can use if you're going to use the tap tempo, and then full expression over so many of the different parameters on this pedal. I'm not even going to get into that today, but if you're into doing expression pedal stuff, I just don't really use it on the Avalanche Run. Get the manual out, download it from Earthquaker. You can see all the things that you can mess around with and just let your imagination go wild. So the way it works on this pedal flow is it goes delay, which is these top controls, into the reverb. So the signal chain, delay, and then it gets wet by your reverb. The other thing I should mention is this is a completely stereo pedal. Beautiful, beautiful stereo algorithms that come out of this version 2 of the Avalanche Run. The earlier versions also had stereo. This is a much more fully baked version, and the programs just sound gorgeous. So you can go mono in, mono out, mono in, stereo out. You can go stereo in, stereo out. Possibilities are almost endless, although quite likely more finite than that. They just really baked in a lot of really cool stuff to the Avalanche Run. So let's go over the delay controls here. So we've got a time control for the delay repeats, which is like your echoes. The tone knob, this tone knob is specifically controls the tone of your delay effect, not your reverb. Although you'll see how they kind of work together. And then your mix. So the cool thing about the mix on this as a delay pedal, I got like a hair on here. Yeah, right. Anyways, so the mix knob, if you're all the way down on the mix, all the way up till about 1 o'clock, That's going to be the effect mixing in with your dry signal from about 1 o'clock to about 3 o'clock. So like 1 to 3. That's right in the range where the effect signal starts to overcome your dry signal a little bit. Dry signal. And then anything from like 3 o'clock on, you can go all the way up and get completely wet on the delay. So no dry signal. Let me demonstrate that. Kind of hear what's happening there. So all of your dry signal unaffected is getting wiped out, completely overcome by the mix. So then down here you have a pretty simplistic reverb controls. You have a decay, which is your tail length, the length of time that reverb will decay, and then a mix. The mix for the reverb works the same way from all the way down, all the way up to about 1 o'clock. The dry signal is mixing in with your reverb signal. And then from 1 to 3, that's when you're starting to get more reverb than your dry. And then you can go all the way wet with this. Let me show you what that sounds like here. Which is really cool if you want to do floaty, cocktail-y, slow divey sounds, shoegaze, dream pop type of stuff. That's my game, so that's why I've been using it for a long time, and I love it. Back in the day, I used to use rack effects and everything with my band Sway to create that floaty, slow divey thing, and that's more or less what Slow Dive did as well, and a lot of these bands, Cocteau Twins, everybody you can think of back in the day that existed in the 90s into the early 2000s, we all had like rack effects, you know, like Alesis rack effects and everything. Now the pedal game, thanks to Earthquaker and a lot of the other heavy hitters, they've all made pedals that let us fully cheat. And that's what's up. Okay, not to advocate for cheating, but it's much easier now to get cool sounds like that out of pedals, although some of these pedals can get expensive. Avalanche Run, a little bit on the expensive side. I think it's totally worth it, but it's all relative. The other thing to mention is this pedal does use actually a lot of juice. So if you're gonna run like a daisy chain, which they don't really recommend, although I kind of do it, uses about 400 milliamps, I think a little over 400 milliamps. So that is a decent amount for a pedal. So you might want to consider that when you're putting your pedal board scheme together. So let's just start messing with things here. I'm going to start with the reverb side, just because it's a little simpler. And we'll get to some of the other things too. But for now, I'm going to put the decay at noon, the mix at noon, turning down the delay side. Remember, top controls are all delay. I'm just going to show you kind of like what the reverb can do. So here is the unaffected signal on my guitar. Let's turn on the Avalanche Run's reverb. So I think the way it works on the Avalanche Run is the modulation, just a little bit of modulation that naturally happens with this pedal happens on the delay and not the reverb, but it just sounds super swirly just in the basically controls at noon setting. Okay, so let's mess around a little bit with the decay. I'm gonna go all the way off. I won't narrate here. I'll just turn the knob and play and you'll hear it. One thing to mention while I'm doing this, I have the setting on the Avalanche Run right now set to where the tails are preserved. So for instance, if you have something going here, turn off the pedal, the tails keep going, right? They don't just stop abruptly when you turn off the pedal. So that's kind of cool. All right, back to messing with this. You can also turn that off too. You can have it so when you turn off the pedal, it just abruptly ends. You need that for studio work or whatever. All the way up on the decay. Here it's still going. So it's not the most epic tail length of any reverb pedal you've ever heard, or maybe it is, but it's pretty decent for that delay. I mean, for the length of that decay on the reverb for the Avalanche Run. But when you mix it with the decay, it just does some amazing things. So the way the signal chain works on this, the delay goes into the reverb. So if you're looking at, like, if you had a delay pedal, you know, and you had like a reverb pedal on your pedal board, you'd have guitar into delay, into reverb, and then out to your amp. And that's the way this pedal comes configured, which is kind of the right way to do it. Although there's really, I can't stress enough, there's no right way to set up your pedals. It's all about experimentation and making like the coolest sounds that you can come up with and what sounds good to you. And I don't know what's going on with my hair here, but apologize for that. Got a haircut recently, so yeah, trying to keep my hair under control. Yeah, so, okay, the mix, like I said, we can go all the way down. On the reverb, let's add some reverb. Let's go all the way up, all the way wet. So you get ghostly there, right? If you have your mix all the way up on the reverb. It wants to kind of swell in with your attack. Of itself is already a cool tone. A lot of people might be like, holy shit, I gotta buy that fucking thing right now. Anyways, all right, so I'm gonna put those two controls about noon and then wipe off the mix on the reverb for now so we can show you the delay. So let's put everything at noon on the delay. Hear what it sounds like. Okay, so the time, we can go all the way to the point you're gonna see the LED is gonna be responding. I don't know if you can really tell yet. Right now it's just a super bright white light in my face right now. But you can tell when I start changing the time, making the delay time longer, you start to get the flutter of the LED, and that more or less mimics the timing of the delay time. So let's just go again. Pretty much almost all the way to the quick delay side. I'm just gonna do some little bop bop stabs so you can hear what the delay is doing. And the amount of repeats that you hear here, the amount of echoes is commensurate to how I have the repeats set, so we'll mess with that. And so the Avalanche Run, I believe, can delay all the way up to about 2 seconds, which is actually a long time. So you can get some pretty psychedelic stuff with 2 seconds of delay. And you'll hear those repeats gradually fading. That's another tenet of the way the repeat function works, but time. Just go all the way up so you can hear like that 2 seconds. Might be able to get some Furpertronics kind of sound on sound stuff happening with that, but 2 seconds is a lot of time for a delay, so this is really cool. Almost like a mini looper, which you get into with other pedals and stuff like this, but the Avalanche Run is no slouch for delay time. All right, so let's set it back at noon. I'm just gonna show you repeats. So the more you go up, you're gonna get longer repeats. all the way to the point where if you max that thing out, or even just short of maxing it out on the repeats, it'll just keep building on itself to the point where you can almost get into self-oscillation. It can get pretty loud and out of control if you let it. But and then of course, like with this thing, so with the delay pedal, anytime you have a time control, this thing will kind of let you do that wongo stuff like any other delay, which is pretty cool if you're doing your end of the world set closers. Okay, so I'm gonna set the repeats and everything about here so you can kind of hear what the tone knob does to your repeats. So specifically listen to the repeats to hear that they'll get darker as I turn the tone knob this way. Hear how they're kind of more dimly toned, a little darker. Make it a little brighter. More bright. Even more crispy. So generally, and this isn't like gospel or science or anything, but the more warmth you get on your repeats, the more it sounds closer to like an analog delay or like an oil can even, or like some sort of tape delay, depending on how you set it, aside from all the warbles from tape delays and stuff. And the more bright you get your delays, the closer to like a digital, like a Boss DD3 type of sound. I'm not like a U2 guy, but you can get like U2 stuff out of this all the way to, you know, good music. Oh, sorry. All right, so anyways, the mix knob, like we kind of mentioned before, you can make it where your delays are actually louder than your initial signal. Finding those balances can kind of create cool, bouncy little things you can do. Shimmering little effects and stuff. I'm not personally one who likes the super tiny delay and stuff like that, so you get kind of like that edge type of thing. Although I am a huge fan of Daniel Lanois and Brian Eno. I actually worked for a short time for Daniel Lanois back in the day, but that's a story for another time. But yeah, and you can go all the way wet on your delay, which really kind of serves to kind of feed that experimental type of thing, because you won't be able to hear your initial attack. You'll just be hearing the delay. So could kind of like inform your performance, I guess, if you wanted to use it for that type of thing. A little bit of chaos is never a bad thing, right? Okay, so we kind of went over most of what the controls are here, and we've taken like 700 hours to do that, so you're welcome. Let's actually take a look at the different modes now that the Avalanche Run offers with its little toggle switch here. So the toggle switch has 3 different modes. I'm just using it right now in a standard forward delay, which is like a typical delay, right? It's just like, and it kind of like repeats what you're doing. In this case here, I'm gonna change it over to the far left side is a reverse, which is really one of my favorite modes on here. Oh yeah. So you're getting reverse delay, which is one of the most beautiful sounds in tape or effects musical language. I love me some delay. I mean, who doesn't love reverse delay, right? Who doesn't love reversed sounds? Come on. If you don't love reverse sounds, there's a good chance you're not human. Although I think animals like reverse sounds too. So, and then all the way to the right, you have a swell mode. This is a totally different mode, which kind of takes away a little bit of the attack and gives you like a little slight swell. It's kind of It's kind of like a cool... Another cool effect, another thing to have in your tool belt. All right, so I'm gonna start off just using the forward delay setting, and I'm just gonna start mixing the delay and the reverb together. And if you have any questions as we go, just yell them out at your phone or your TV, and I probably won't hear them. You can put them in the comments though, I guess, right? So let's try that. Who doesn't love that about a good delay, right? You gotta get some woo-woo or else what's the point? All right, so let's mess around a little bit with the reverb going hard here and see if we can... Okay, we'll get a little more ghostly now with the reverb. I've got the delay, or I'm sorry, keep mixing up delay and decay, but you'll see where I'm kind of pointing and just hear my slurred words and know what I'm sort of insinuating here. But the decay on the reverb is gonna be set up here about 3 o'clock, so I'm gonna get a lot more angelic type of stuff happening. Even more on the mix with the reverb there and get even more swimmy, right? Remember, this is just with the forward delay setting. We haven't even messed with the reverse yet. But you can see as far as bang for your buck for ambiance. I mean, in stereo, how does it get prettier than that? And yet it does. see where that reverb really is like the haymaker for the dreamy stuff, right? You just pepper that reverb in there, kind of turn it up a little bit, and you get some really cool sounds out of it, regardless of where the delay time is, because the reverb will kind of smear the delay and add to like the overall length and billowiness of what you've got going when you create chords and stuff. This kind of would let me touch a little bit on the way you play when you're using a lot of delay and reverb. If you're trying to go for a more ambient thing, the way you articulate has a lot to do with the way things come out of your guitar, right? So you, part of the skill, as it were, I don't know if you can call it that, of using these sorts of effects are achieving what it is that you're trying to do, right? If you have tons of delay and reverb, unless it's what you're going for, you usually don't necessarily just like beat the guitar to where everything starts to mash off each other. You usually give it a little bit of a lilt and finesse to your playing so that the notes kind of come out and coalesce and do what they do to each other and react with one another the way you hear it in your head. Now, it's not to say that, like, you know, having crazy reverb and delay on stuff and just going absolutely batshit crazy with the way you articulate isn't a cool sound, because it absolutely is. I mean, look at like A Place to Bury Strangers. You know, Oliver from Place to Bury Strangers does some insane shit like that too. So again, there's no rules, but if you wanted to do like the light billowy stuff, which for years people have been asking me about, like sway sounds and stuff like that, it all has to do with sandwiching reverbs and delays. And I used to use rack gear, right? But you also change the way you play, change the way you articulate and pick based on what the reverb's doing, and vice versa. They kind of play off one another. So let's check out the reverse mode. So we've been in the forward mode here, but let's check out what reverse actually does. So I'm going to kill the reverb for a second, and we're going to hear that reverse delay. Just kind of leave things set like so. So you're like, okay, it's cool, psychedelic reverses, but what does that do with the overall sound that you're going for by using this pedal? Well, when you combine that with reverb, check this out. So now you have that reverse stuff going into a reverb, so it's reverbing the reverse sounds, which is just magic. It's really blurring out the attack, right? It's like a soft focus reverb, right? The cool thing about that reverse delay into the reverb is, like I said, it just takes away a lot of that attack. So let's maybe give it even more delay there. I'm going to turn down the tone a little bit, take some of the edge off on the repeats, and let's see what that does, leaving the reverb as it was. Kind of hear those delays in the background reversed, sipping. Yip, yip, yip. But again, it really depends on how you articulate. How about some more of that reverse delay? Maybe we'll turn down the decay on the reverb a little bit and give it even more of the verb. Okay, so even more so, you get some billowy stuff happening. Really kind of swelling now and removing a lot of your attack, right? I'm sure you can kind of pick up a little bit on the mics, the pick dragging across the strings versus what it's doing with the effect. If I stop talking. Is that the sound you're going for? But it's also the way I play, right? I'm articulating a certain way and I'm playing with the notes based on what I hear. I'm filling in the frequencies where I feel there needs to be more of the highs and lows based on the arpeggios and the chord that I'm using at any given time, right? So it's kind of how you play it. All right, so let's go with the mix all the way up on the reverse delay. Hear what that does. I turn down the mix on the reverb a little bit. So again, it's all wet reverse delay. But then that reverse delay is getting reverb after it comes out. You don't hear my original signal. There's so many freaking cool things you can do with this pedal, everybody. It's just really, really beautiful device. Highly recommend this. To me, the reverse mode alone, it's worth the cost of the pedal. Maybe we should mess with the swell setting. So all the way to the right, you have the swell setting, which let's mess with that again. Makes the sound when you hit the strings with the pick, it kind of goes, it removes the attack, right? Or it lessens the attack. It's almost like you're doing a little sweep on a volume pedal. Turn my reverb mix up on that, give it a little bit more decay, and then let's set the delay for something pretty, not too much repeats, and maybe tone, let's go with a brighter tone, maybe a little bit more on the mix. So let's try that setting right there with that swell. So it almost feels like I have like a latency going on my fingers because of the way the swell is taking that initial attack out, but it's adding a really cool timbre to the sound there. Timbre? Maybe a little less on the mix, maybe a little more decay on the reverb there. And let's just kind of keep things symmetric like I talked about in my other video. Drives me crazy when stuff is like off by minute amounts. I can't remember where I save stuff. I don't like marking my pedals up too much. So it's a cool sound. The swell setting on the Avalanche Run is not one that I use too much, and the reason for that is because the way I play normally, I've been playing for years, is to kind of tailor my articulation based on the amount of reverb and delay that I have, so that it allows me to do my own kind of swells. And then I also use my volume knob on my guitar a little bit. So swell is a cool setting, can help you achieve some cool sounds. And then, of course, on this pedal, like I mentioned in the beginning, there's a whole bunch of different like little mode secrets and things like that that you can figure out when you just sit and fuck around with this pedal for hours and hours and hours. Because just like some sort of crazy role-playing video game or something, there's hours and hours of research and absolute beautiful fun from this pedal when you spend the money on it. You'll really never get bored of it, and the entire time you'll be learning things about the pedal. It'll be enhancing your sound. If you're going for the pretty stuff or even the dirty stuff, crazy stuff, this is the pedal for you. That's why I said it's very, very highly recommended pedal, even though the power consumption and the wallet consumption are what they are. I'm gonna go back to the forward delay setting here. I don't want to go too long on this video. Try to keep it under 6 hours long. I'm actually going to go to one of my out of phase positions on my Strat. That wrong note is how you know I'm not using AI, right? Okay. And also that I suck. So I want to make sure we go to extremes on the pedal. Again, if you have any questions or comments or anything you want to talk about, just scream out real loud at your TV or at your phone right now since you're on the toilet. Everyone around you in that public toilet will definitely appreciate that. But I want to try to show you some of the more extreme settings that we can do on here because, in my opinion, it's kind of all about extreme settings. So thanks everybody for hanging out with me today and checking out the Avalanche Run. This is the version 2, so just be aware if you go out there and you don't intend on buying a new one from Earthquaker, which you should, because definitely support Earthquaker Devices. They're one of the raddest pedal companies around, but you can find them on the used market and they're relatively affordable, certainly for what it does to your sound and the amount of options and just beautiful textures that it gives you. Again, I highly recommend the Avalanche Run. Version 2 has an absolutely beautiful stereo quality to it, and the programs that it allows you to use in a studio or with a stereo amp setup if you're playing out live, whether it be with a guitar, keyboards, any other textures you put through it. I've heard people put drums through it. I put field recordings and samples through it. It's just an absolutely almost perfect pedal. I don't know why it wouldn't be perfect, but I mean, it's almost perfect in the sense that it's not free. How about that? But again, it's worth the money. Support Earthquaker, check out all their products. We're gonna do some more reviews in the future for Gear and Loathing. One of the things I wanna talk about is the Dispatch Master, which is like the baby version, although super capable in and of itself. Baby version of the Avalanche Run, and that's a lot more affordable too. And some other cool pedals, including some stuff that's not made by Earthquaker. Hope you enjoyed the music that I've slopped through for you. And please like and subscribe if you're so inclined. I'd love to have you as a subscriber. And thanks for your support, and we'll see you on the next video. Thanks.